This is something that I wrote as a presentation on the sense of place for a local environmental organization some years ago. I wrote it a few years after I'd moved into the state residence at Sugarloaf Ridge State Park within the Mayakama Mountains of Northern California. I wanted to give an idea of how the seasons changed within the park and the subtle and not so subtle changes that accompanied the seasons. I went on to live there for 60 seasons, 180 moons, 15 years. I left when I retired from state service 3 years ago, but the place and my sense of the place will forever be with me. Summer. By the beginning of summer, the campground is full, with most of the campsites filled even in midweek. There are sounds of laughter and singing in the night. The joyful noise makes its way up the valley to my house. These sounds cause me to think about the ancient campsites that line the creek outside my door. I often imagine the prehistoric song and laughter of the Wapo and the Pomo who once called the area home. Rattlesnakes abound, and they are all around all at once. I remove a half dozen or more from the yard every year, releasing them in the meadow upstream from the house. They race me back to the house. The yellow jackets also appear in summer. They are always all aflutter in their incessant activity. The days are very warm, some being so hot as to be uncomfortable. We've seen it climb above 110 degrees Fahrenheit numerous times. The sky at night is very black, with old starlight punctuating the bright young night. The big maple on Sonoma Creek is in full leaf. It's a tree of life full of birdsong. One night in summer, I heard the sound of a lion caterwauling, and the horses in the corral were all in a panic. We've seen and heard other lions here as well. We hear owls most every night. By summer's end, the raccoons have often raided our backyard vegetable garden, and the deer have browsed to death anything we plant out front. But we're more than willing to share what we have with our furry neighbors here on Sugarloaf Ridge. Fall. After Labor Day, the campers disappear, and the traditional camping season comes to a close. The park seems quieter this time of year, especially after a busy summer. Our daily walks continue, but there are less people to see. The days begin to grow shorter, and sometimes the sunsets are more spectacular. The 1-acre wood near our house will often explode in the last light of day. As fall progresses, Sonoma Creek begins to dry up. After months of drought, the winter rains are but a fading memory. However, one deep water hole survives near the horse barn. It becomes critical habitat for the neighborhood wildlife this time of year. The heavily antlered bucks move into the park in order to mate with the local deer. Their love is primal and exuberant. At night, we listen as coyotes howl up and down the canyon. Their excitement at some hunting success almost contagious. The oaks grow heavy with their acorns, and the birds and squirrels cannot contain their enjoyment. It will be another bumper crop of acorns and baynuts. The big maple begins to shed its leaves. The air is not so hot now. We watch the ridge to the west for the signs of rain. With the arrival of the rain, the horses will soon depart. We always hate to see them go. Winter. There are a few campers in winter, but the trails do see occasional hikers. The rattlesnakes have all disappeared or returned to their dens. The rain returns like an old friend that has been sorely missed. If the water rises, the low water crossing into the campground becomes inundated, and the campground's closed. The waterfall downstream of the campground grows large. Sometimes it's tremendous. One New Year's Eve a few years ago, it rained 9 inches overnight. Sonoma Creek roared to life and brought destruction to properties further downstream. Occasionally there are big winds and light snow here on Sugarloaf Ridge. The wind blew our porch roof off the first winter we were here. It also destroyed the greenhouse next door. In the midst of winter, There's a great solitude to be found on the trails. The sky grows blacker at night, and the stars are pure magic. A mother lion and her cub are seen time and time again, but the coyotes sometimes disappear. A black bear and her cub passed through the park near Christmas a few winters ago. Sometimes, on the coldest of nights, a fox takes refuge beneath our house. It's joined occasionally by a skunk or a raccoon. During our first winter here, an unfortunate man hung himself from the so-called ceremonial tree, just up the hill behind our house. I think about that still. In winter, the big maple is the skeleton exposed for all to see. Even the birds refrain from singing when I go passing by. Spring. With spring, the days grow longer, and they are warmer too. The wildflowers explode all about. The hillsides are like paint palettes decorated with blue lupins and golden poppies. The mother deer show off their new fawns. The baby rattlesnakes emerge from the dens alongside their mothers, fathers, uncles, and aunts. For 2 springs in a row, we listened to coyote pups barking in a den near our house. And once, we heard the sound of young lions playing. Gradually, the spring rains cease. Once it's dry again, the horses return to the corral beside the old barn. With the return of the horses come the flies and mice. The big maple leaves out again. The birds rejoice, and they're full of song. On Memorial Day, the campers return. So does the song and laughter that punctuates the night. I stand on the porch in the evening and listen to the sounds that drift up from the campground below. Some people are singing, and others are laughing around the fire. Above my head, bright stars are beckoning. The year has remade itself, just as it's done so many times before here on Sugarloaf Ridge.